We're interviewing at the Civil Rights Institute today, September 4th, 1996.
I want to thank you, Mr. Casey, for taking time out of your schedule this morning to come and talk with me about Birmingham and the Civil Rights Movement.
Well, Dr. Hunter, I appreciate it, man, your status. I mean, I feel very humbled to be in your presence.
Well, I won't even touch that. We're 10 foot tall. Mr. Casey, I want to just get some background first of all. Tell me just a bit about your parents. Where were your parents from?
My parents are from Hill County. Both my parents are from Hill County. My mother and my father from Hill County. And father, I know George Casey, he came out from Mexico or somewhere, I believe in India. Texas,
Who was George?
That's my grandfather.
Your grandfather. On your father's side?
Father's side.
Okay.
And it must be some more cases around somewhere. He may change his name, I don't know what happened. But he married another lady named Charlotte, my understanding. But when he died in 1946, I think. He was 110, 114.
Mm-hmm.
But he married a young black lady, and she was only about 70 when he died. So, and he had 12 kids. So I'm sure he wasn't.
Yeah.
he wasn't practicing abstinence up to that point.
Yeah.
So it's possible more people, but it's kind of vague. I know some other people in town, there's some kin to us, even the gentleman used to be president of Morehouse, but I can't think of his name right now, but we understand we some kin by way, people just said don't tell. This the only set of people that's kin to you and after in the family, so we know some kin. But
Well, you said he was Indian.
yeah, a lot of Indian.
George. You don't know what
Probably
nation
Chalky. Probably Chalky. I've been threatened to go investigate that more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
I have not at this point, but it's Indian on both sides of the family. My other father, which is the Burrows, they still in the Hill County. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
He had died in '79. He was between 99 and 103. So longevity, long time family on the male side.
Oh, yeah.
Provided they don't get into some kind of work hazard, breathing toxins or something. Once
Right.
it's entrepreneurs, most of them are pretty long.
Yeah. So you have the opportunity to look to a long and prosperous life there.
I hope so. It's going so fast, Doc.
Well, now you were born in Birmingham.
I went to Birmingham. A place called Norwood Hospital in Norwood. I think now it's called Caraway.
Caraway Hospital.
I think I went to hospital. I don't know. My birth certificate is kind of like most black birth certificate. The Bible had the 18th in it, but the birth certificate showed up in about 22 years later, with 23rd on it. So the big disparity in the dates.
Is that right?
It was Dr. Molan, which was a doctor. I'm not sure I was born at home, he carried me to the hospital. He came to Reverend Casey's house and looked at the baby and thought about a month later and said, let me file your documents.
How many brothers and sisters? Yeah.
My mother and father. My father had, he was an older gentleman. He lived now, you got about 128. So he had one daughter.
Right. You say he lived to be what?
He would be about 128 living now.
Oh, if he was living now. Okay.
His first daughter was Ruth Casey. She married a gentleman named Tank Bradshaw, which was a big musician back in the 30s and the 40s.
Right.
But his problem, he didn't record, so he's not well known as Duke Ellington and all. But he was a forward of them, and he was a big band leader in the Big Bend area. And after he had Ruth, he had another, he married another name was Leroy Grisby. He was another child he had, another female. And then he married Esther Brown, Esther Brown was the daughter of Mr. Brown, which owned Grace Hill Cemetery together, my understanding, which now is part of AGS Enterprise. And later on, like someone he married my mother, My was his last wife. He married her. She was 29 years old. He had to be 70 when he married her. But then he had a money bag, you know. Growing up, I can remember. I don't really know my mother. My mother, she died of childbirth. We had 5 kids. My mother. And
So how old were you when she died?
I had to be about 5. About 5. About 5. Her younger brother's 2 younger than me, about 5. Younger brother, 2 years younger than me. But she deceased. And it was kind of ironic that after she died, and my father, 2 years later, my father committed. We got our older sister from Ohio to the roof and brought her back from Youngstown, Ohio, back to Birmingham, her and her husband, and set them up and spend the business, family business and everything, and turn it over to her.
What business was that?
Well, he was in real estate. He had real estate. He had a few houses, church, a store, 2 pieces of two parts of farms we own. It's paid for. And he was a railroad man over there, and he retired railroad over there.
What did he do on the railroad?
He was a fireman. The last job he was a fireman. He and his brother, Clifton Casey, and Kelly Casey, they were brothers. They both on the railroad. I was saying they were the top paid blacks out of the owned at that time. And it was, but the railroad, that time they used to give it passes. We used to ride the train all the time, you know, for free. And that was kind of nice. And that lasted, it was 20, I went to school, I think that's age 22. And I had, I always had a pension for her, so he left in financial shape, was pretty good. When I seen it, I get back to about the train, I thought was, I really knew my mother. I thought later Miss Ward was my mother. Come out, she was just on a maid. My father had maids come to the house, because he was a good middle class person.
Pretty well off financially.
Yeah, for that time he was.
And so did your father then raise your kids alone, or with the help of the maids?
Help of the maids and nannies and stuff like that.
Okay.
Until he brought my sister down, older sister, and she came. We call half sisters. We don't believe in half sisters in my family. Everybody's all part of the whole. But he brought her down in 54, I think 53. And he was a year. And he had hardened arteries. And if you know now, they have a cure for it. They take a vein out standing out of your legs, and put it in, do a hard bypass. But the pain was very excruciating, and he couldn't get rid of the pain. Nothing, he committed suicide.
He committed suicide?
On Sunday morning.
Do you remember that?
Oh, very good. I saw it. I saw him do it. He didn't know I was looking at him, but he was on my porch, and I was looking to the side, went to the window, and I saw him pull the trigger and went off.
He was on the front porch?
20, at our house, we had a house at 2501 24th Street, New York.
And you were about 5 or 6 years old?
About 5 years old. Yeah.
How did that impact you? To see your father?
You know, kids, you wonder about that a lot of times. You know, it was probably the driving Sunday I ever met in my life. You know, because he was a very unique young gentleman. He always talks about the real deal, the real things. He didn't know pull, punches. He talked about how to invest and how to own stuff, how to be somebody, and his heritage and how when he built a store next to the house, he wanted to work in the store to make money so to go to college. Probably a Republican he was living now. But the impact, it had a strange impact. Kids are a lot tougher than adults give them credit to be. Kids will accept whatever. That's when you combat. You find they want to draft the younger ones because they have no fear. You accept whatever's there. I think older people took it a lot worse than the younger ones. Our sisters, brothers accepted. We accepted it. I think always dealt with it in different ways. But to me, it was something I always thought it didn't happen. I tried to make myself that really didn't happen. It was my father that's somewhat waiting to meet me. Until I found a day in life, I realized that he wasn't coming back. I had to do it myself.
5 years old, And that, I'm sure that was traumatic in its own way. Then you were starting school the next year. What do you remember about
I
starting?
couldn't think that I had to be 7. Because I had started school, he came to school. Miss Washington class down in the little building down in Lewis School.
Okay.
But Little was across from Lewis School, so I had to be about 7. So it was, and this friend I talked about this in a long time. I was talk about the place next time. I remember. But he came to school the first day, and I'll never forget, he came to school, and Miss Washington, Audrey Washington, was a first grade teacher. And I was pretty bright. She made me president of class, only because he was pastor. He knew everybody, I don't know why she made me president of class, but she made me head of class. And what happened was, I'll never forget, she was asking the names. Everybody was going around and tell who they were, who their parents were. And a couple kids in class didn't know their parents' name. I said, wow, they sure are dumb. And it got on my turn. She said, what's your dad's name? My dad is Papa. She said, Papa what? I said, Papa, She said, what's your name? I said, my name is Mickey. And she said, Mickey? He said, I think your name is Willie Casey. I never heard that guy before. I was like, Willie Casey? I don't know who he is. She gave me a note to take home. But it's just, I guess that was a part of them just forgot to tell me my name.
So it wasn't a matter of spelling your name, it's just a matter of knowing. Yeah. What do you remember most then about your experience at Lewis School?
Mr. William J. Moore, the principal, he was a very taskmaster. He demanded all the kids at Lewis School to wear a tie. You'd have some kind of tie on your neck every day. If you had a tie, you get a spanking. He had a big razor strap called Kate. And I think you got one day for not having a tie on. The teachers knew if you came to class without a tie, to send you down to the office. You had to have a tie, you had your shirt buttoned up. That was probably the most dramatic thing, the most outstanding thing with the school area. The teachers was very taskmaster, and they would put it on you. It was like with no tolerance. It was strictly discipline.
So, do you think that was important for the time, the discipline? Did that have a positive or negative impact?
A kid like myself, it was a positive one because after my father's, now I was in education, my father was living for a couple, 2 years there, but after he died, I think I kind of just lost interest in school. And school was a big play period for me. It was like I had all the kids doing all kinds of things. He's called me the clown of the class. I didn't have to do anything. And pain didn't bother me. I got Mr. Moore's office, he was spanking. It was just like nothing to me. I felt okay. I got the punishment for what I did, and I want to do it again. I'm going to do it again.
Accept the punishment.
Accept the punishment. But it kept. But I can see, looking back now, I can see how it did to keep other kids in line. A lot of kids would shun from me because I was getting in trouble.
So you were the troublemaker.
But it was just having fun.
But when you left Lewis School, where did you go?
I left Lewis School, went to Cobb, 1 year Cobb. And it wasn't any better. And one thing I like, school was not interesting here in Birmingham. It really wasn't. And I didn't understand why it wasn't. Until later on, I remember we had a library, and we was learning about the books, how to parse a book. And every book we looked into was copyrighted in like 1938, 42, 45. I think the early one was like 46. Those were before I was even born. So all the books we were reading was history books. Whether it was geography, math, English, whatever, literature,
All those basically outdated.
Outdated. So what interesting. And I went to 1 year College. And Mr. Goodson, and he's a good friend of mine now. Mr. Goodson and Mr. Means, we're all deep in the 6th Baptist Church across the street here. And I tell them all the time that Mr. Goodson spelled me one time for 2 weeks out of school. I wrote a note, got back in school, and called us and told him I was Mr. Connor and I was Mr. Casey, and got back in school. He spelled me 2 other times. Mr. Means kicked me out of his band class, told me, boy, you want to play, so get out of here. So that was kind of ironic on that, but I didn't get interested in school until I left here with Ohio. That's when I was shocked to see the school books had current features and current articles about Kennedy most books we read in Birmingham at that time had people like Truman, Teddy Roosevelt. That was all, it was all history. I couldn't relate to it. I heard nothing about it on the news. And I got to Ohio, it was just shocking to me to see books. They had Kennedy's in it, the Rockefellers, current events about the Cuban crisis.
And that you were reading every day.
Yeah, now wow, like in the newspaper, like hey, like on 6 months, a year behind. And I'm like, it got very interesting, and then I kind of started getting my act together on school. Plus, a gentleman in Ohio named Walter S. Houston, which was like I told you before, he was so like A.G. Gaston and also Arthur Shore drafted in Warren, Ohio. He was the financial man. He was the richest man I ever met, richest black man I ever met independently. He had 5 funeral homes and a hell of a law practice.
Before we get to Cincinnati, you said you went to Carver 1 year?
1 year.
Okay, that must have been 1963 now. 62,
Correct.
63 school.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But you were here during the 63 demonstrations.
Correct.
What happened? How did you get involved in the movement at that time?
I want to bet you, Doctor, that a lot of students got involved, same way I got involved. You won't admit it, but I was not interested in school that much, except for just going to school, play period, big play period. And that day they announced I knew about King. I heard about King, and the demonstrations and the boycotts, and we participated in boycotts, not buying stuff before East and all that stuff here. But I wasn't really, it was just talk. I heard around the store. We had a store and we talked about King and stuff. So I knew of him. But that day I didn't know what the demonstration was going on, but I knew we had a test that day. And the test was going to be like at the 3 o'clock class or something. And they started talking about this demonstration. We're going to walk out of school. Well, I was all for that. Because that way I had to study the test so I could if I leave school, I wanted to take the test. So I left school and I went to this kid, they announced it over the PA system. I forget what the announcement was, but if you leave, I don't say something if you leave, but some of the PA system. But anyway, I got with the crew that left out of school, and we left Carver. They announced we left Carver to going down to 63 Baptist Church, which I never seen the church before at that point either. And we walked.
How did you get here?
We walked all the way down the railroad tracks on here. So what happened was, I realize now that we got there late. Everybody was already there. The program already started. We got there. A bunch of us were called. It must have been about 70, maybe 50 to 75, 8 of us. We got there late.
How was it announced that you were leaving school?
Some of the PA system, and somebody came to the classroom and said, we're all going down here. And teachers, my teacher, I forget what, I think it was, I can't think of his name now, but he kind of sort of encouraged us in a roundabout way that this is something that I can't tell y'all not to do, but I think something you should do. If I was you, I would probably do it, but I have a job, I have a family to feed, but if y'all left, I ain't gonna stand in the doorway. There's too many of y'all in here. And something like he said, something like that. But give us an hour. It was let us know that we could stay if we wanted to stay, if we could leave if we wanted to leave. And he almost sort of encouraged us to leave. And like I said, I knew we had a test coming up. And I knew I had to have a test. So
that was
my out. So I took that out.
When you arrived here at the church, what did you witness?
I was a large crowd of people. It was all outside the church. And I was inside the church. And I remember some gentleman told me, he said, they ain't going to church and hear what they're saying. Well, by getting from Kaiser, we got there late. So I went to the balcony, the top balcony, over the church. And the church was full of people. It was real packed, wall to wall. And I don't know who the gentlemen were, but a lot of them was talking. It was preachers, they was talking. It was talking about, I got there. I guess the last part was saying, we'll march out of the church, we'll get in I think a breast of 4, whatever it said. And before we do that, we'll have them buckets. So everybody put the knives, the handgun guns, and weapons from the buckets. And don't give them your name, and you don't give them your name and your address, they get your name and address. And if you was violent, had potential to be violent, you could not be obedient in this march. They don't march. That this was a nonviolent march, and they didn't want us to do anything to incite or invoke the police because they would do something to us. And I remember giving instructions. So at that point, I marched. I went out of the church in the balcony downstairs. So what happened was that by me being late, being back in the crowd, I was in the, they started lining us up. I was in about 20 persons from the front row.
Mhm.
And when they started the penny wagons, they must march maybe a little short distance, maybe 2 or 3 blocks, saying we shall come. By that time they stopped us, the cops stopped us, and there's some dogs out there, I think. They put us in the penny wagon. And I was in the second penny wagon. They put the first penny wagon up full, they put me in the second penny wagon. And they crammed us in there, it was crammed like sardines, it was hot. I'm all about the last one, but they said, put the big one in the last. And that was the last one in the door. They pushed the door and closed the door. The door couldn't even get shut. They fired enough. But must have been, I guess it was probably geared of 10. It was when 30 of us in there.
Mm.
We sat out there for I don't know how long. We sat there for maybe an hour or so.
I was in the heat of
In
the
the
day.
heat of the day. And but being young, you can do all kinds of that, so it was no big deal. It was still fun to me at that point.
Mhm.
And they finally carried us over to the city jail on 6th Avenue, and they put us in cells. We sat in the city jail for about, must have been 3 hours or so in a little square jail.
Mhm. How many in the cell? Many.
It was about
More than.
little small cells, it was about 4 or 5 each little cell. We was always sit on the bunks, whatever. I think about 3 hours later, they came and got us out of there, put us on the bus, and carried us to juvenile. And it was dark. It must have been 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It was dark. Remember they had bologna sandwich, cold bologna, and like Cokes or something. But I didn't want any bologna. I didn't eat cold bologna, so I was wait. We had something better later on. Not knowing that was it.
Mhm.
We stayed at juvenile. It must have been. There was a lot of kids in juvenile. It was kids all in the fence. It was fenced in. It was just
Out in the yard.
down the yard. It was a lot of kids out there. And we were staying maybe 2 or 3 hours. Maybe it must have been 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. There was another bus. They said, take this crew here. And I've been in a room with this crew here. But they moved out of jail. It was all juvenile. Juvenile was already full. So they was trying to think where to put us. They didn't know where to put us. So they,
As you were moving, did you have any fear about what was about to happen? And
No.
did you ever think
I was
about
young and dumb and didn't care. I know a lot of black folks, and I knew we was doing something that we all agreed on, and it's just we don't feel it. It was kind of exciting, to be part of something moving that big. Just being in a crowd of people, you can get caught up in it so easily, And I've had experience 2 other times in the military, where a group used to do it because the rest of them doing it. You go with the flow. And they moved us out there and put us on another bus. And carried us, I don't know where they carried us then. They carried us to Bessemer. I found they was in Bessemer. And we was in jail in Bessemer. And we stayed down there the remainder of the time. It was been 2 weeks.
that long?
Yeah, 'cause I missed everything.
So you didn't have to take the test.
I think the test was you. So we stayed in jail.
What was the experience like being in jail for 2 weeks? What was the daily routine?
Well, they first had it. I was getting there first. Again, I was always the first one to get here real quick, except for juvenile. We got to jail first. We got bunks, and we all chose bunks. And so we talking about just talking, just young boy talking. It wasn't a big deal. It was still exciting to all of us. All those were very audible and very memorable. Then they bought another 200 some keys in there, I guess. And they opened up the cafeteria. You had a cafeteria in there. We all was in this big holding cell. We had some jail cells, but they all the bars up. They had one door. They had one door to the main big room where those cells cut up, and also the cafeteria. Well, not a cafeteria room. They let them sit and eat on these metal tables. They opened all the burger bars. So we just had the floor and just find where we sit on the floor, tables. I had a bunk, my roommate had not my roommate, but my neighbor had a bunk was Jerome Washington. We was in the same cell together. And it was just talk. It was fun for the first 3 or 4 days. Then wow, we kind of thought we won't never get out of that.
Did you do any singing or any kind of protest while you were there?
We sung a little bit. The first night we sung a little bit. Second night we sung a little bit. Then a while it got like, hey, you know, what we singing to? We smoked. We had money. So I had some money on us. I had about $6-7 on me. I think we bought. And it would allow us to buy candy and stuff, you know, we started buying candy and whatever, you know, we had money. But, you know, later on, guess what, when we started smoking toilet paper for cigarettes, you know, that was kind of just something to do. And we started telling the story, and it was Sunday. I think probably the most shocking it was Sunday, because it was really sunshine. It was a very sunny day. And we could see out the bar, see people going to church. And I really missed that. I was going to church. My father owned a church and was very religious. And I would go to church. So that was very depressing to me, not being outside with the free people walking in the church. It
You
just,
say your father owned the church?
yeah, he owned the church. He had these in the back pocket.
That was his
It
church.
was his church.
Oh, okay. And he was minister.
He was a minister, right? It was on the corner of 24th Street and 26th Avenue, which was about 1 block from where our house was. Now people about that too, because they don't only go to church next door to us. And we always thought they were trying to bum us instead of the church.
You just go to the house.
His house, we stayed on 24th Street and 24th Avenue, which is now 24th Street and Finley Avenue. We had a little store on the side of the house when they probably built. Our house was Triumph Church next door to us. But a block up, and we used to said it because my sister was from Ohio, and she had a lot of white friends being married to this musician named Tina Bradshaw. And of course, she kept remarried into a guy named Hunter, named Brady Hunter, which out of Fairfield, Texas. But she had a lot of white friends, and they used to come in, and she was very religious. Especially my father had killed, committed suicide, she had very religious. So she brought up white friends, evangelist friends from Ohio. And we had another friend named Mary Stone. She was an evangelist here in Birmingham. She had a nursing home. They hooked up. And Miss Mary Stone, she had a lot of white friends from Georgia and wherever, you know, they was coming in, they used to have revivals at our church. And at night, the cops always stop us. And I said, where y'all going? I'm the niggas in the car. But the white folks in the car, you know, they would harass us and put lights on and stuff. They never do anything to them. They always tell them.
Never arrested them?
They arrested. They always tell them they was evangelists, they was missionaries, and you know, so I guess that would save them.
Right.
But then they told them, well, don't come here, no. They told them, don't come back no more, and they wasn't even wanted around here. So, you know, but she never stopped doing it. And we got white people in our house. Even my father and my white friends, a lot of judges to my house. And I was a kid, just going to the house and visit him. And talking about different things get done in the neighborhood and things like that.
Well, when you were getting back to Bessemer and staying in jail for 2 weeks, did they have you doing any kind of work, or what did you do all day?
No, sit in jail.
Just sat in jail?
Sit in jail. And when we got out, I think they forgot about us. Because I think my parents, my sister was my parents, they didn't know, I found later on, they didn't know where I was. And being the kind of kid I was, they knew I wasn't afraid of it too much. They didn't know, they knew I got arrested because when she was in Youngstown when we got arrested, matter of fact, she went home. She was in Youngstown to see her daughter was getting operated or whatever. She had 2 kids older than us, but her son, he had saw me spotted on TV in Youngstown, Ohio. He said, they arrested Mickey. He said, that's on put him in the panty wagon. You know, so they knew I was in jail.
Yeah.
When they got here, they knew what Cliff was. They didn't know where I was. My brother Clifton, they knew he was located. They didn't know where I was. So it really bothered her to not know where I was. She thought they strung me up or something, you know, I had said something out the way or whatever, you know.
When you and Cliff demonstrate together,
We demonstrated together, but we didn't know he was.
Okay.
Both went to college and high school together.
Right.
And he probably was in the church when I was looking at my balcony, but I don't know what, but he.
But you didn't go to jail together and then was separated?
No, we didn't. I didn't see him till 2 weeks later when I got back home. And when I got back home, was ironic was Sitting up like Jerome Washington. He said next to my aunt on 26th Avenue, which was 2 blocks from us. And we were very neighborhood oriented. Everybody knew everybody, whatever. So I told Jerome, I think one of Jerome's cousins told his parents he was in there. They came and got him out. And so I told him, Jerome, you leave, go by the store and tell them where I'm in jail at the investment or wherever I am. And so he went by the store and told them I was down in investment.
And then
They came and got me. So the cops didn't notify him. I don't know why, because I gave my name and my address.
but no notification, so you were just sort of forgotten.
Right. And
Did that frighten you at all that you had stayed there for so long?
No, it didn't frighten me. It just meant I wanted to get out of there. You know, just kids set a lot of things. I left. It was a lot of. I wasn't the last one to leave there. I mean, when I left there, it was must have been a lot of kids getting out. A lot of kids are getting out. But 3 folks had already been getting out all the time. They started not leaving the 3rd, 4th day. Well, we kept staying in there.
How did that affect you when others were leaving and you were staying?
I didn't know why. I just didn't know. I just didn't.
But it wasn't a thing where you would frighten you.
No, it didn't frighten me. Because still we had about 2 or 3 of them. I left was about 30 left in there. About 30 still was in there that last week. I think the second day started getting them out.
Well, after you got out, what happened?
I came home. It was a good sunshiny day, 12 o'clock in the day. I had a good meal. Family glad to see me. I was happy to be home. And a gentleman named Big Leslie. Y'all may know him as James. This is James. He's a big somebody working in Atlanta now.
Orange?
James Orange, yeah, James Orange. He was a big friend of the family. We all stayed in the same neighborhood. He was around the corner. And James came out and told me, he said, yeah, I'm real proud of you. He said, you know, you're a real man.
How did that make you feel?
I feel real good. And that's the first guy that really complimented me on what I done. But really me, because he was working on the house. I think he was doing work on the house or something. He was bigger than we was. He was a big guy, big burly guy. So James Owens, we call him Big Leslie. He was one of the neighbors. Everybody Mr. Big Leslie.
So did you attend any mass meetings?
No, I didn't miss me.
Never did attend a mass meeting?
I never knew what it was about. I knew more and when I left here. And what happened was, now we had a story next door, and I do know, I remember white used to come by sometimes and throw rotten eggs at us. White people come by at night and stand in front of the store and throw rotten eggs at us, and the customers call them niggers and all kinds of stuff here. And then one night, it was a strange thing happened. It must have been about 2 o'clock in the morning, it was a little late, early in the morning. And a big blast went off, and blew us out the bed. And I mean, I had never heard that loud, and he blew us out the bed. And come down with a bomb, they brought the church next door, from the church next door to us. It was a Triumph church. I think that set a lot of emotions involved. That set a lot of things in place that caused us to move. Because we was middle class people at that time. We had the whereabouts to move. And we wanted to. And my sister, her husband had a stroke early. A lot of people in our family had a sister. My oldest sister, which they went to college, Tuskegee. She transferred to Tuskegee, went to Youngstown State. And she became pregnant. Which I didn't know at the time. They don't know. At that time, people shun on people getting pregnant from families with poor community, you know, good families. So whatever case of daughter getting pregnant, you know, on the team, that's no big deal. But they let us know. Nobody knew in Birmingham knew it was pregnant, except my older sister, she knew it was pregnant.
Is that why she left?
No, she was already in Youngstown. She
Okay.
transferred from Tuskegee, went to Youngstown State. But in Youngstown State, she wanted to be a lawyer. She was very intelligent. But she was Youngstown State. She met some general football player up there, and she got pregnant, and we didn't know it. But anyway, she called one night. My sister called and said, "Hey, we need to pray for Priscilla." And I said, "Pray for Priscilla for what?" I thought she's very sick. And next day I heard that she had died of childbirth. This was one of the good. She's always getting involved in the education. I was like, I need to learn something. Stop being so stupid, you know. So she died. And up to a kid named Bonnie Casey, which was so she bring the kid back to Birmingham. So I think those were the big strain on my sister then. My older sister, she didn't have control of the family. She one of the girls get pregnant, I sent her to Youngstown. And she brought a baby back, and the girl died. So we brought the girl, sold back and buried her and stuff, you know. So I think that to me, I think it was more working on her, as she thought she had failed the family. And at the same time, her husband had a stroke, and he became paralyzed, and he's still paralyzed on the left side. So he was running the store, so that cannot. He ran the store in Birmingham Stolen Range, which is really a slave hold out there, you understand it. And a lot of guys had strokes out there from Stolen Range at that time. He was young, he was a physical specimen, you know, but he had a stroke, and he became paralyzed. So he being paralyzed, my oldest sister died, and bring the baby back. I think there's too much pressure on her. So what she did, she sold it. She went on this white minister. He may have talked into it. They're all trying to buy this church over here on the corner. It's right across the Home Baptist Church, San Station. There used to be expressway there. And we always had options to lease it. All the law was trying to get us to lease it to them or sell it to them. Because there was two corners, there was a service station there. I think this how white folks would treat black folks all the way around. This bishop named Bishop, I wouldn't call his name, anyway, Bishop. He was an overseer in the Church of God. And I'm pretty sure his my sister, she didn't need to be in Birmingham. And she didn't go to Ohio. And when she did that, she could sell the church. And they would pay the church to make sure that she said, okay, she went up on that idea as much. He said, well, we'll sell the church to the church. Or it's still a church. There's a day of one anyway. And you can take this funds and go relocate to Ohio because your daughters and sons in Ohio. And you go to Ohio, listen, you only go to all this when I'm here. I guess I could finish start talking by that time, you know. Gospel, all the gospel, you know. And maybe she was getting to it a little more than normal. So she sold the church to the Church of God. And as soon as he left here, we found out he didn't sell the Church of God. He bought it himself and sold it to the oil company.
Oh, right.
So we sold it. He got a nice pinnacle we could have gotten it up. I think it was over $35,000 or something. Bought the part of those in Ohio. But we could have probably gotten $50,000 for it. He sold it to
But he made.
he ended up killing it, you know.
Yeah.
And so knowing those that I know now, we probably still could have sued and got it back because clearly laws of structure, but I didn't know about real estate laws, you know, at that point in time.
So you then moved to Cincinnati.
Just at Ohio.
Yeah, and that's where you would eventually finish
In high school and go to college.
Yeah. How did you compare? I know you talked about it briefly, but how did you compare the schools in Birmingham to schools in Cincinnati?
It was a tremendous difference. I went to school in Central High School. It's on Victory Parkway. It was so big. It must have had 10,000 students going, black and white. They had all kind of programs from A to Z, from the smartest kids to the dumbest kids. I mean, from the Z's, called Z's. And they had 4 wings of vocation school there. They taught plumbing, electrician, airplane mechanics, automobile mechanics.
At high school?
Yeah, this is a huge high school. They have a stadium big as Lawson Field. It was something about 30 acres. It was a huge school. I mean, they tested me. I came out general. I was a general student, so it was fairly decent. But I found later on I'm dyslexic. So I always wondered why. I understood what they were saying in classrooms all the time. I knew the answers to the questions, but I couldn't write it down. She said, spell wrong. I'm like, why? But then they didn't have all the testing programs. The way they tested.
You didn't find that out
while you were in
school.
Right. We don't write T's backwards, you know, and sometimes I have problems spelling words, you know. But, and that's this common thing, overcoming now. My daughter had it, but we overcome together do it. So she has overcome that handicap, and she's an exceptional kid. But getting back to Ohio and the school system, some of the things that surprised me was once I got there, all these facilities they put in the school system, all the books and all the training aids, advisors. I mean, each advisor would have maybe 10 kids, 12 kids would call out once a month. How's school going? How you doing this class here? And there's different things that wasn't even here in Birmingham. And the books was, the books they about Kennedy. I was like, Kennedy? I saw it on newspaper, on TV. Music, Castro, just current events.
Mm.
The books was more than a year old. And it just shocked me. I said, I didn't think they could print books that fast.
Mm.
I thought that they print books like every 10 years print a book, or 5 years print a book.
Right.
All books in Birmingham I read was in the 40s and the 40s. And it was just a whole different world. So I had a lot of catching up to do. And I never get in the classroom. A little girl was in the classroom named Rose Sanders, and she was cute. And not like the ladies, you know, she was always sitting there smiling at me. And I hadn't seen anything yet. And the teacher asked me, it was math class, she asked me about these problems. And I said, it was 400 and something. Rose just laughed. There was a country boy up in the front room. And I couldn't understand why. She said, and she all these going, foe. Ain't no foes in Cincinnati. You know? There's four, ain't no foes. And she teased me about that all the time.
Mm.
So I learned then there was a different language. I didn't even know how it was summer. No one ever teased me like that. I never knew it was. I would get we talk very flat here, you know, like it says street, instead of street, it says street, you know. But she got me up on me aware of that, so I knew again it was a different culture in the blacks and everything.
What about the differences in the way blacks were treated in Birmingham versus in Cincinnati?
Well, we go to Ohio every summer, so I never thought I was gonna do, but you had more things was black in school together in white schools, all it was fine.
So it wasn't a novelty to you when you got there?
No, I had white friends already that we go this summer, so I don't know. You know, in fact, in Birmingham we had white friends. I mean, it was like we had Italians. I mean, it was called, you don't hear the word now. You know, one test, then you had a young kid under 30 years old, asking what is a dago. And he tell you don't know. But anybody over 40, or like over 45, know what dago is. And it was called Dagos and Niggas. You know, niggas, Dagos stayed together. And we was didn't know. We had Italians in our community, his name was Fluid. His name was Patella. He raised his family right there in the neighborhood with us. And his son, he played with us all the time. Little Jeff, and all they played with us, and daughters, and they played with us, you know, it was no big deal. And once they got, I understand how they participated in the American Dream, came out from Newark. They had the money straight, and now they have no X, and they all consolidated to these grocery stores and stuff, and they own them now. But, you know, we was raised with whites, you know, we in Birmingham just did it. Was like, well, we call it Italian white now, but we used to call it Dagos, you know, that was the thing. It was Dagos and niggas.
Yeah, I think Italians in all of our communities.
Yeah, everybody come here.
Ran the stores.
They come here and Italian on it. On the bottom, and it was, and they respected us, we respected them, you know, the kids played together, and it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Catholics.
Muslims,
they
Catholics.
were not the Anglo-Saxons,
Right.
Protestants. So when you then arrived in Cincinnati, you were what, was that 9th grade or 10th grade?
I did 9th grade again because I was so, you know, from here going there, I did 9th grade again. They suggest I do 9th grade again. Now, the good thing about Ohio, that's two things. I met an old friend of Tiny Bradshaw, which was a friend of the families, was Walter S. Houston, the attorney Walter S. Houston. And I met him, and it was a good time of life I met him because he was the most phenomenal man I've met in my life. He's the richest black man I've met, independently wealthy. And he was a civil rights lawyer. And he would say anything, anytime, he felt like saying he would say it. I mean, he cut across the grain, he cut across the grain, you know. And he wouldn't care whether it was in front of white folks, black folks, whoever. He felt he would say it. And he said, only can do that because he's independent wealthy, he's not dependent on anybody. He want me to be the same way. And it didn't sink into later on later years what he was really saying. But I met him and he took a liking to me because I would work and clean his office up and we had a pact. I would never lie to him, I would steal from him. I would tell the truth. And I always did that. He put me in the test a lot of times. He'd leave the office and he'd clean the office on Saturdays and I would clean his desk up and if his desk started, he had like $300, cash money in the desk. I could leave right there, you know, and so over a few times he took a liking to me and trusted me. We had to be very friends. He almost thought, as a matter of fact, he called me his son. He told me, that's my son. But what Walter did to me was, he kept me in school because he always knew that I was, I guess he probably didn't quite know why I could not, the grades I did. But he could talk to me, he could tell me things, how to do them. You know, I was intelligent enough, but just
You're right.
Right.
Just didn't show up on
didn't
the
show
report
up on the report card. And you see what the figure was, the lexic was out there. He couldn't figure out what was going on. But we had a very good relationship. And he wanted to recommend me go to, I was going to Hughes High School in Michigan. He wanted, he fixed it so I could go to Central. He said he'd go to Central. I took a test and most choice tests, I did good on most choice tests, so I really great. So he said I could take a trade. I wanted to take a trade with a tail. I wanted to get a tail because I thought, well, I got a tail that makes suits for him. And that was a big money. He was paying his tail like $1,000 a suit. I'm like, yeah. I got a customer already. Yeah. So I want to be an entrepreneur. Even my father, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so I went to Central High School and we had a good relationship. I played football there for a bit. It was a pretty good experience, as far as the education thing. Now, when I got in trouble, I always had a tendency, I always had a tendency to draw people to me. And I always can get, and sometimes from the city, you get covered wrong because I had no father figure, guide you and take you to the city. And Walt was there for most of the time, but sometimes I was still getting the wrong crowd. And I look at my junior year in high school, in Central High, they sent me a letter in the mail in the summertime. They said, you were expelled from school.
In the summer?
In the summer.
I was expelled in the summertime.
And I thought, like, wow, I need to stay in the summertime. I thought I got through because I made it. Well, we had, but then there were some problems in Ohio also. There was a problem in Ohio also. Because it got so bad that by the time King and his getting more aware of it, they had our school, we had a Friday day, we called Combat Day. Now, sometimes it's known, it was in jail, so it wasn't well addressed students in the United States for our students, because we had to wear Flotions, Murphys, and tailgate pants.
You had to.
Whether you go when the guy with a gold chain, they had French seams down. So tailgate was a big thing in Cincinnati at that time, back in the 60s. And I wore my tailgate pants with French seams and pearls on the button and gold chain and Murphy's shoes. So, and silk shirts. So it was just well-dressed student. But on Friday, we put khakis on. They call it Combat Day. You may get in a fight on Friday. We didn't fight first 40, but Friday, you may get in a fight. So, and it can be a thing that we used to fight among ourselves. Because there was a particular boxing. Now, a bad guy in Birmingham was a guy with a case knife and a bottle of red dagger. That was a bad guy in Birmingham. But in Ohio, a bad guy was a guy with reefer. 22 automatic, 25 automatic. He was a real bad guy. But then too, here in Birmingham was different. Birmingham was, a lot of kids would wrestle over. Because body slam was a big thing here in Birmingham. In Ohio, it was sucker punch, boxing. And the reason being is because Cincinnati was a boxing town. It's Charles came through there. And a big boxing town. You all gyms, a lot of boxing. Get out of the box to be winning. It's all part of getting the girl thing, being a big bowl in the block. You have to you take care of yourself. And you had a little walk, the Kimmel, As I got out, I heard him change my language, got my doing a southern accent, started saying the four. Got my Murphys and Murphys and tailgate pants, where we walk, we get clean his office and stuff. Driving his Cadillacs. And when I met him, one day he told me, he said, he had a Lincoln, he called it green Lincoln. And I remember that reminded me of the Lincoln that Tiny Bradshaw came down Birmingham. He was here in 58. He had a Lincoln, or a telephone in the back, with a glass top. And he went down and he got some good friends. He came out of our store. And all the neighbors came out to see this long Lincoln with a towel in the back, with a telephone in the back. He called AG. Hey, I've been out there, damn it, leave me alone. I'm about kid folk, So everybody was up the door. So I walked him Lincoln. So I said, how many cars you got? He said, oh, I don't know, I ain't counting lately. I think I got 42 cars. I could use it line. But I realized he was counting all the cars in the funeral home. And so one of the hospital day. And he asked me to go in the basement and get his album. He showed his album, his Fisk University. He was head of the debate club. Him and Dr. Brewer was in the class together here. And he was always a scholar. His mother was a teacher, and he was the only kid. And went down, and I saw 2 cars in the basement, all dusty. I said, "Who cars are?" He said, "Mine." "Are you driving?" He said, "No, I ain't driven about a year." I was like, he just baffled. Got 2 new cars in the garage, he had drove them a year. And I thought that was just awesome. And he said, I said, "Who clean your house up?" He said, "White?" He said, "No, I'm not white." He said, "Who clean your house up?" "A Chinese maid." And I thought he was lying. He got a Chinese maid to clean his house up. A male Chinese maid to clean his house up. And the more I seen this man, the more I liked him, the more I want to be like him. The more I realized he was accepting the most man I ever seen in my life. I mean, he just moved and grooved and did what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it. And he'd go to the store, and everybody come around, "Hey, Walt," you know. And so he was kind of I took a liking to it. He kept me out of a lot of trouble. And with him, when I got expelled from our central, I didn't know what to do. And so my sister told Walt, said, "Hey, expelled him from school." You know, Walt said, "No problem." So we gave him he used high school, night school. I get on the Stowe schools out since I went to Stowe schools, adult school. So I went to Stowe, I got enough hours up there. So I started hanging I got a little fits with the game. So I was on Fridays, every Friday, we have civil rights fights. You know, black kids, white kids up, you know.
Civil rights fights.
Yeah. Black kids, white kids up every Friday, you know. Most black kids in boxing, most white kids didn't know how to fight in a box. So you can punch them out every Friday. That come up with a bigger thing at the end in 66. So finally they spelled me, so I guess they probably figured I was part of that crew, which I was part of that crew. Associated with them, not doing as much fighting with white folks. I didn't punch them. I would fight for myself. I would hang with the kids, and I dressed like them, so they spelled all of us in the summertime. That's when they spelled the summertime, trying to cut down the violence. So I went to Hughes on the stove, and I finished up there. So I would get one. Well, that summer, Ralph Brown came to Cincinnati. And he was talking about how America does wrong. The difference between Stokely Carmichael, and Martin King, my point was, King was pushing, ask white folks to give us our rights. Ralph Brown, so Carmichael was saying, we had our rights already, we didn't even demand them. You know, exercise them. So it was 4 acres of mule, and never did before 4 acres of mule. You know, he said, we better, he said, somehow he said America had used our labor, our sweat and labor, our grandfathers, and had paid us for our labor. He owed us for that. And he could really rap, he could really talk that, he talk. And he was throwing it out there. I was picking it up too. I was like, wow, you know, my ears was burning. And he went hand in hand with about a month before that, I had met Malcolm X.
You met Malcolm?
Malcolm X. It was a place in Cincinnati called Rockville and Redden Road. There was a cross section. Like y'all had 4th Avenue here in Birmingham. Well, Rockville and Redden Road was a place where blacks hung out in Cincinnati. And then black was Sunday home at Rockville and Redden Road. Clubs, all the clubs was there. Go-go joints. This place. On top of the drugstore there, the Muslims in there. And you go to the drugstore, they all be out there talking about his bow ties on. "Yeah, young man, come here, get this speaker tonight." One night he said, "Hey, brother, come on here and see the speaker." I don't know why that night I said, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna do what you have to say." I went there, I had nothing to do. I went to, they just patted me down. I was like, that was kind of shocking. They sit down and just get back when they was talking about white folks and how the white was a devil, and they'd been they'd been come from Africa, and all from Africa, and whites were actually black folks that had caught leprosy. Leprosy ate the pigment out of the skin, and they chased all the white folks to North Africa. And you understand anthropology. The white folks was living in caves and they grew hair on them because they stay warm. And they put a board in the back, tree in the back, and get out of the cave. You know, and also the people eat part of the brain out, where they had a problem. They had a vicious streak in them. Like a lot of people was attacked through there, they didn't know. I was like, he was just shocked. I never heard anybody saying this all at one time in America. And he was just talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, I can imagine how skinny he is, maybe Ku Klux Klan, young guy meeting me talking about how black folks got tails and cut tails off and stuff. You know? I was like, it was shocking. So then about that summer, I ran into Rap Brown. So Rap got fired up. So we had a riot today. As a matter of fact, the cops, it was killing kids in Cincinnati too. You know, shooting in Cincinnati, not as much as down here, but it was shooting right down here. They shot a kid on Rockdale, on Bernadette Avenue. And they had a riot. It was a small riot, and I knew the kid. They went to school together. And then they had another riot on Rockdale Road. This dope came through there, taught us how to do model cocktail, shows how to put gasoline in the
So you must have seen Malcolm before you saw Rap Brown.
I was Malcolm before, Rap Brown. Now I'm getting into the movie. I'm realizing what happened in Birmingham. Because I was just trying to pass a test, about no civil rights, you know. But now I'm becoming more aware of the difference between the races and how we've been. I guess being a middle class black, and I never wanted anything. You know, I grew up. My dad was about 2 cowboy suits.
Yeah.
I
had everything.
Yeah, I had a set of guns and 2 cowboy suits. Most people don't have guns, you know. So now I'm seeing the real side, the difference between people more aware of what's going on in America. Rappers bought it home. You put right down the line what's going on. And I got involved in that, and I got sucked up in it. Because really, that next day I went there, they had, the next, about 2 weeks later, I went up there, I went watching TV, and they were saying they had all Shotty was a news reporter in Cincinnati. And he was known for on-the-spot coverage. I mean, he get there and catch me in the blood, and I was like, you know, and he was, this was his news. He was attacked. He all kind of, he would pay you for news stories. He said, going to see a fight style. You call out, shot it, and he had news reporters already on the scene. Film, live coverage. So I heard it on the news that they was having it was Saturday night. I was at home. He had shot somebody up on Rockdale Road. And I went Rockdale Road, and when I got there, and I saw him beating a guy. He was paraplegic. He had polio arthritis or something. Polio. He always beat up the one leg. But I saw 2 white cops beat him to a pulp because he couldn't move fast enough. And they beat him down.
He was in Cincinnati.
They beat him so bad he got bloody. At that point, I just started telling my friend, hey, let's get these white folks, you know, people, I call all kind of names I don't call now. But, and we started a riot, you know, and I guess that day, one of the black cops knew me. He was named Wilson, he knew me, but he couldn't get to me. He was, at that time, we had such a control system at that point. The cops when they come down the street, it was like, I'm like, the cops knew we was in play. Not come that way. And you know, middle class kids, you know, the young ghetto kids, middle class kids, you know, black middle class neighborhoods, good families. So I don't know, I guess it's a bad problem we see now. I guess I don't know. Anyway, so with that point, the next week we was up there again. Something else happened up there. I don't know what happened. They arrested somebody else. Anytime they would do something, we would react like that. You know, it's like they would give against us this thing. They bring the tanks in.
And this was in what, 66, 67?
66.
Yeah, that's so. When a lot of that was happening. You had these long, hot summers that they were called. Yeah.
So it's so sad they killed. And they did something on that. I got the crew together again. My friend, let's get him. And Wilson spotted me in the crowd. And he told the white cops, hey, get him. That dude, baby, get him. You know. So they chased me down the road and I ran. And they started shooting. One shot in front of me, one shot behind me. Said, these people are gonna blow your way. I'm gonna keep honest. Hard for me, you know. So they arrested me, put me in a pan away here downtown. I wasn't arrested.
You don't want to
arrested for citing a riot. So
did that stop it?
Huh?
When they took you out, did that,
I don't know. I was unpaid.
you don't know what happened after that?
I wasn't concerned. I was about getting out of jail at that point.
But then you went on to college.
Well, let me tell you what I did that. I went to court. And this is what I can see empowerment politically helps in being of somebody, knowing somebody. I went to court. They found me guilty. Now I was guilty as hell. I mean, I was guilty. No doubt about it. I was guilty. I did it 2 times, so everybody knew. But the judges knew a different light. Like 2 people, they had seen me with Walter all the time. Ken's briefcase, giving whatever to the courts and stuff, doctor and stuff. They knew me as the good girl with a Casey, you know. He had to go to Mickey out in the streets. They get police, the hours just got caught on. But the judge had found me guilty. Walt had a lot of clouds, so he had all the clouds, and they're black hair. So when they found me guilty, my sister had a heart attack in the courtroom. He hauled out, and I said, "Oh, I killed my sister." I really felt bad. It was probably the Lord punched my life at that point. I started praying. I said, "Lord, no, I don't know what I've done, but I'm sorry what I've done, you know." And everybody in the court, I was sitting in the bed in the box where all the convicts was going to jail. So the bell king got everybody out of the box. One of the bells said, "No, leave him here. Get everybody out the jail." I was in the courtroom. They cut lights out. I was in the courtroom. I said, "The lights out." Cut lights out in the courtroom. I was still in the courtroom. They got up because Johnny came out, reached me doing, took lights out. And I was just in the box. So I knew not to move. They said, "Don't stay there." I stood there. Sit there. Yeah, and walk. Come here, became a boy. "Hey, old nappy head boy, get your ass out of here." You know. He cussed like he said. And I said, I was happy. I didn't walk, but I was all right then, you know. He said, I took care of it for you. God damn it, you just won't do right, you know. And he told me, so he put his clothes, he should have sawed on for his white judge. He was just after, you know. And all the thing about how you gonna kick my ass when I get home and stuff, you know. I'm gonna kick your ass when you get home. You get down there, I knew he wanted to do that, you know. And so the judge, he said, let me talk to the judge. And so in the judge's chamber, he said, "Now, don't you say a damn thing. This is what the judge got to say." The judge said, "Look, he said, I've seen you around before." He said, "Walt, put his line for you." He said, "Walt said you're going to college. So you get into college Monday." I'm like, "College? I ain't filed no way." You know? So he don't say nothing, you know, because I ain't filed no college. I wasn't thinking about going to college. They're going to give you a job. I went at a meatpacking plant over about $300 a week. Couldn't meet up pretty good staying home, you know. Hey, I could buy me a big car. So Walt said, Jesse, yeah, Walt said, "You won't be going to school to college next week. So you gotta go to college and get good grades. If you don't, you come back here. Your ass gonna do all this time I got for you." "Yes, Your Honor." I knew to say, "Yes, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor." The guy said, "Whoa, what college? Ain't no damn business." You know, soon enough. And sure enough, he told me, "Come on, pack your clothes." Pack my clothes. So he had Count Cloud. He could call to get things done. He called Kentucky, Western Kentucky, somebody down there, and told me, he said, "Be ready to go to college." Told me just going to get a bus ticket, sitting down in Western Kentucky. Got a bus got there. Hadn't found no got there. Was in the gym. You know, I was doing out for running. My bag in my hand. People said, "What's your name?" They were the case. "It's he right here." So the president took it there and said, "Walt, I'm gonna do a favor, Walt." Said, "You some powerful people." I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, he said, "Walt's you all right with me?" They put me in school. And I was in school about 4 months. And got thrown out of school. Got the shooting of it. Came home on Labor Day. Guys for the girl thing, the boy thing. And got the shooting.
At the school?
At school. 12 students got shot. So 12 students it's been 12 students it's been 12 got shot. I didn't get shot anyway. And it was a big shootout in school on campus. And, they started, but we live in Cincinnati, you know, here comes another kid out here, I'm gonna have fried tattoo to the side, and talking out both sides of my mouth, you know, all the girls liking me, like talking city talk, you know. But they still, I was doing real well in school. Actually, I think instantly I got real dedicated to school, and so I was the top student in my class. In the middle quarter, he spelled my school to me, couldn't come back for a year. And I knew I was not going to jail. So since that, I said, but no, I'm back to Cincinnati to a wall, so that's all right. I'm not unpack your bag. I guess I'm gonna let you go. We sent to school in Chicago, Metropolitan School of Television. And that was a unique experience. I met a gentleman called Jeff Ford.
Jeff Ford.
Yeah, I was in his class. That's what those guys knew Jeff Ford, I met Jeff Ford. And it was very unique experience, to say the least. I mean, I haven't seen like it. We had gangs in Cincinnati. We had gangs in Birmingham. We had gangs in Cincinnati. Nothing the magnitude they had in Chicago. And the gangs in Birmingham had gangs in Cincinnati. Once you got adulthood, the gangs just dissipated, and you went on doing something else, you know.
Right.
And you get in the Magnificent Seven, Terrible Six, or whatever, you know, Hoes and Heroes, whatever, you know, you get the names. But in Chicago, I was amazed that they had their granddad was in the game. I'm like, I mean, and the policeman was part of the Blacks and Rangers. Blacks and Rangers disciples, they ran Chicago. And you had to be part of the clique if you want to be out front, you know, if you want to be a punk, you know. But the things they wanted you to do was like stand on a corner, you know, shoot through the buses, show your loyalty and your courage. No, innocent people, you know. They put a can of something in a grocery store and market, and you get the regular store, get the can out of the grocery store and market. No. I draw the line, you know. And I guess I drew the line to the point that I came from a strong background, family people that I thought I was somebody already. But I see how kids get caught up in this, trying to be somebody they're not. Because sometimes black folks have tends to tell kids, you're as good as other kids, you're not better than other kids. Water always told me, my parents told me that I was good, I'm better than other kids. So I always felt that I was better than other kids. If I hadn't been told that, I think I probably would have joined that game, probably did something. You know, where I've been now.
So how did you get out of doing that? Because I know that a lot
Just didn't do it.
You just didn't do it. Did you stay in that area? Did they know you?
Yeah, well,
have you met Jeff Ford?
Yeah, I mean, it was on casual basis. It was like somebody since I knew me and introduced me and said, hey, this is a good guy. This guy got backbone, you know, chumps. They all knew that was. I could hold my own, you know.
So you were not pressured?
No, I wasn't pressured. It was like yeah, you know, because I want to show up on stage in Chicago not. Now, when I was meantime, I had one, by the time I don't even think about doing no game in the first place. They introduced me to this situation. And I was amazed how it went. I was more thinking about my livelihood at this point. I already got kicked out of high school. Walking people been talking to already. I understand this time now I started thinking about being adulthood. I'm no kid. That a kid is just you're a kid for a short period of time. You're an adult a lot longer. You need to start some real substance in your life. So they said to draft me, so I dropped out of school up there to work because we had paid a whole year of tuition in Kentucky. We lost, and they raised tuition in Chicago. I didn't want to tell my family to raise tuition, so I didn't want to go. And I told them I didn't want to tell the person. I just wanted to do it because I thought I needed some water. You know? So what I did was I went down to December draft. I dropped out one quarter to work. I worked possibly also. I worked a quarter to work. Well, back then when you drop out of school, the dean was, I went to the draft board. You know, as punishment, whatever, you know, cut the buck, whatever they say. You know, the other one was strong, gonna hold me in. So I got a draft notice. I went to Cincinnati. Instead of going to give the walk, I should have walked to Houston. I didn't give the walk, turn the walk to Houston. I kept the note myself and I tried to negotiate for myself. And the recruiter talked me into not 2 years or 4 years. Say, hey, you know the missiles during the night. He took a test. He pretty intelligent, you know. Say, he's very smart. Rest of the kids, like, what you doing there? You qualified doing this RADCOM program. It's a 4-year program. Keep you out to be in there. You in missiles, and it's the missiles thing now, you know. It's like computers, you know. He had second there. I can get a job in missiles, you know. Not thinking who gonna use missile, missile crewman or something. You know? So I signed for 4 years, and I let kids walk off. So, you know, because he had big hopes of me having his real estate and doing things, you know, and being, cause he could trust me, you know. He know, you know. But I wanted him 4 years in the military, I guess, and I really got in the military. I did. I did well. I came on the drill sergeant. I was in the service, boxing champ, you know. But he really set me back because I was at that point. I couldn't I fall out of the road.
Started moving then.
Started moving. It just took a lot of my life, you know. But it was an experience.
Were you in the Army?
The Army.
And then after you got out of the military?
I went back to Cincinnati. I got a job at ADT, the rail arm system. And reading computer tapes and stuff and going on calls and stuff. And one night, old white gentleman told us, hey, what is it? Man, you know our ladies? I said, yeah. It's, I got a farm down here in Covington. I live in Cincinnati. I found Covington. He said, tell you what, why don't you just come and drive girls and go out on the farm and have some fun? I thought, are you serious? Well, you know, white girls, just goes down and we're having fun, you know? No. So it shocked me to the point that I thought I was being accepted around there. I was on the black girl ADT. And he was thinking I was so weak. I was this young black girl. This old white man, he was 65 years old. We go Bill Belly, you know.
Yeah.
And I would get some young black girls to go down to Kentucky and have sex with, you know, this. They kind of decided I got to go to, you know, Dublin this year. So my sister, she kept pushing me to go to school in Central State. She got the application for me in Central State. I went there, and I applied. I went in Central State. And, I was here at Veteran Affairs. I majored in, I wanted to be an accountant. And I have a little friend named Cootie. And Cootie is the average state. He was taking marketing. He taught me to get into marketing. We had a little thing in Cincinnati called the Black Mafia, Cincinnati called the Black Mafia. We control a whole lot of things there. And I always had a little, I don't know, I think any black is in a city, it's aggressive. He gonna be affiliated or associated with the in crowd. I think it's just a natural. I think it's something that people don't talk about a lot of times. Because if you can't move and groove in the city, that shit just happens. But it's a point you know how far to go with it, how to deal with it. So I had to facet there with me at Central State. They got me in a little trouble there, but walking had that trouble also. And I finished, I did 4 years at Central State, and I had left Central State. I was going to my wife, my little lady there named Teresa Richardson. And she was, I had learned how to delegate authority, you know, like getting ladies, help you out to work, you know. I learned that from another friend of mine, you know, get them doing typing and stuff. I had about 4 or 5 days doing typing. They were doing one type of social hour, one type, whatever it was, you know. So I had one of Teresa. And Teresa, she started typing one paper. He started typing 2 papers. And so she doing all of them. I was just had nothing to do. She doing all the work. So I was fine, so this was my lady here. So we hooked together. We got married, came to Birmingham. Then we were going to Alaska. And we went to Birmingham. We were going to Alaska. We hit Alaska, and somewhere between here, between Columbus and Dayton, I realized that it was August. It was very cold in Alaska, winter city. So let's go to Houston with Barn Frost, a little friend of ours in Cincinnati. Had a daycare center in Houston, Texas. And because when I was in school, I never stayed on campus, we had a house. We were in a house, and You in the house, all stayed in the house, and we all had cars, and I drove Mercedes-Benz all to college, and I went to school. I had $2,000. I had 2 jobs in Veterans Fair, with the post office, the hustle on the side.
You really doing bad.
Yeah, I wasn't even bad. No, they had the VA was paying part of the money, and it just I was doing pretty well, school was all right with me, from Harold. So I got a lot of friends that the same attitude, want to be captains. We all want to be captains, want to be with millionaires and have more than normal people. All had the same attitude, own our own business and doing something. So we were going to Houston. So we were going to Alaska. Pipeline was going strong here. I had met a gentleman in Cincinnati. There was a geography teacher, a little black guy, he was a Marine. I can't think of the name, but he was telling us about that he had just gotten out of the Marines, and he had went to Alaska. He had gotten, the government gave him 100 acres. He bought additional acres for $250 an acre. He had told us 800 acres, and all he had to do was build a house on it to solidify his acre, and how well he was doing. He challenged us to go to Alaska and be part of America, so last frontier. So I kept that dream in the back of my head. I want to go to Alaska. And I should have went to Alaska, but anyway, I came from Birmingham. Going to Houston, drove to Houston, got through Columbus, got through Cumberland, Kentucky. I changed with the man and said, well, I got some relatives in Birmingham. I was born in Birmingham. And my father was probably there, let's start off and see what's going on there. We got 6 months. We would go to Alaska in the spring. We stopped off in Birmingham. Both still here. 20-some years later, still here, so. And then, Richard came on scene, and I met a lady, Miss Rosa Kent. And I guess Miss Rosa Kent, she one really kind of brought all the home to me. Rosa Kent, she was one of the first principals in Alabama. If you know Miss Rosa Kent. She's out of Cottesville, and she's deceased now. But Jordan McCoy, you know Jordan McCoy, Rosa Kent, she was a forerunner of Jordan McCoy and all that stuff. And her and my father were friends. And I was at Birmingham at our meeting. They had fairly bypass. It was going to put the expressway right started at our corner, 24th Street. The bypass was going to start there. He was going to start at Philly Avenue, which would kill the property value. So I had gotten involved on that end. And that was the meeting in Birmingham. And I was talking about we need to stand for our rights and fight for it. And we could force this thing. It didn't got to be there. A lot of people accepted it because the state said it was going to be there. It had to be there. I went to Montgomery and checked out in the Mobile, and checked out Mobile, and lost all the plans, all the options. And no options was starting at 26th Avenue. So I came back all the way back to the community. And Bubba David, which used to be when I was a kid, he had all the Boy Scouts and all the baseball, and D-Mays played under him, and he was fixing music. I had a good thing, I had a store, a church, you could know everybody. Everybody get to know you. So I had a lot of old friends, my father was here before. So I got a lot of interest in killing this project on Finland Avenue. Miss Kent, she was, Miss Kent, she was heavy set lady, but she was real wise lady. And she said that, she wouldn't say much. She said something. She knew what she was talking about.
Everybody listen.
Yeah, she didn't answer for you. She asked the question, she didn't answer for you, she asked the question. So she said it back, and I remember my kid, I remember her name, the kid, but I know they remember her name in the family, Miss Rosa Kent. So, and that was, telling my body to get involved with this feeling bypass and stuff, and so they gonna kill property value down there. They're just gonna leave us under the ground. And so she was saying, but she got the meeting, she said, young man, she said, come here. Yes, ma'am. She said, what? He said, are you a Casey? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I thought you said you were. She said, what's your parents' name? I said, well, you killed Casey. She said, I thought that. She said, boy, let me tell you something. Come to my house and talk to you. God said a lot of things off the cuff, and I would actually lean toward the other regime, because I had met Joe Dixon. So Joe Dixon was a Republican. Now I work with Joe Dixon since 21, so no, I met Joe Dixon. I met Richard Kennedy. And I was a manager at JC. The first guy we got here, I got a job, my wife got a job at manager at UAB. I got a job at Western Hill Mall, JC Penney, as a training merchandise manager. They were trying to, it was affirmative action in place, and they were trying to get a black certified. He hadn't had a black certified to make sale. That was their point. So, but I was hanging with Richard Finley, the Young Republicans. And so I was her Republican talking. She spotted me, she told me, boy, you know what you're doing. You don't lay the land. But then they turn the grave. So she talked to me about how the political process went, who was who, and what was going on in Birmingham. and brought me up to date from the time I left here, in the time here, where they was trying to take the project, how they was trying to, how, his name Richard Arrington was the guy they were looking forward to doing some big things with. Spoke off the shores and kind of passing on him. We saw Richard Arrington had a lot of fire in him. He was kind of stood for the project and stuff. So, then another thing came with a lot. Home Baptist Church on 20th Street had a Dixie Brown was going to put a parking lot right in front of the church. So I got involved in that, and I got petitioned, you know, give us McDaniel or something. And you check these old members over, and it was McDaniel, and this Blanche, you know. And we got petitioned, we went down to City Hall, and we petitioned to the council. Richard Andrews was on the council at that point, and I spoke up for Dixie Brown, she can get zoned for a parking lot in front of the church. That was a fiction in the community. That was just an asshole, and to park a lot behind the Dixie Brown somewhere.
Right.
And Dick Anderson spoke up. I don't know, I was supposed to say that, but Dick Anderson spoke up in favor, and they turned it down. Took zoning down in Dixie Brown. And I'm throwing in a lot to Home Baptist Church. Ms. Kent saw I had a little more pull. So she drew me in. She kids up with me. In Lee Patton. And then I had a cousin moved to Birmingham, moved to North Birmingham, named David Harris. And she had David Harris and myself. We go to the house every once a month and have tea and cookies. She sat down, she told about the political communications of Birmingham, who's who, whoever they want to take the project. And I understand Ms. Kent bought the watch, not really, what's the thing that Arrington has in place now? The neighbor block cap.
Neighborhood watch.
No, neighbor block captains. No,
Okay, so yeah.
Coalition.
Neighborhood.
Yeah, block captain thing.
Yeah.
Ms. Kent said she bought that there and she was showing how to work it. And she was all organized. She was better organized. And so we got involved with her. And so we, at that point, we got the lot, got Dixie Brown's back off of the little project. We got the state to put to change their plan to put the overpass down 26th Avenue. Then went to building houses. So we got a thing with Pat Tyson and Tony Harris. Well, actually, we got a housing, one of those houses, but it's North Birmingham. So we got involved with that. And Van was in the White House, Van was in that van. So we pushed that project, Tony Tucker was a representative out here. But he was all we all key. Miss Kent didn't like it because he would tell her things he wouldn't follow through. And she couldn't stand that part of it. So she had copied a plan to give it to Tony, give it to him. And she did. She already put Spratt in. With Spratt in. Then election for the mayor. And Tony Harris. And we got Pat Tyson, which was Tony Harris's wife. She was heading up the project and getting money from HUD. They don't get that money from somebody Washington D.C. to do these houses. We know it's like we got 4 new houses and about 8 houses out there. Do this money. We were the first one to do it. We were the forerunner project. North Carolina Belgian Corporation. David Harris was the president. I was just advised that I wasn't get involved with that organization, but I wanted to have the contract solidified. And Ms. Kent, she's the one to orchestrate the whole thing. But we got involved as Pat Tyson and Tony Harris was he was a representative here. So it went on pretty fast. And the policy got kind of, Tony Harris, he was supporting Van. And Ms. Kent was supporting Richard Arrington. So we all had all our projects, you know, not politics, projects. Yeah. I'm really getting, so I guess the long story short, Jolie Kent, she's the one that really taught me how to play politics between her and Walter S. Houston. So a different style of politics here in Ohio. But
But you learn how to play the Birmingham game.
Yeah. And so she took me into the coalition. And the coalition was going, that really coalition is about, guess, well, you have those conception of the coalition. And I guess, and then I guess there's some political points going on. One is Ashley Hinton's campaign manager. When she ran in the Bedford College, the first time Bedford College beat her the first time. And the second time she came and asked me to be a campaign manager. I was Earl, he was business sponsor for 10 years. So I talked to Earl Burst, and yeah, we can do it, you know, so she needs some exposure. She's not exposed to a part of the community. She was out in Brownsville. So we worked real hard on getting her in the office. It was a real good race because Betty found her even run off again. This time we had done a good job of putting Andrew's name out in the community, the other part, north side and west side. North side of Birmingham, because she was known on the west side, northeast side, and she got the councilman. And that was one. Other big thing I did was I had pretty close to North Birmingham people. And Jordan Coleman, I don't get when parents was going on a gun. And then, I mean, everybody had a gun, to the truth. You know? I mean, that was the most collective experience I felt political pressure and opposition in my life. I think you had been here to experience it. It's how we call it the siege of Birmingham. Every black was doing something was under siege, under suspect. Moose Seller just got killed. Henry Johnson, I don't think he got killed yet. He may have been killed yet. There was a lot of things, a lot of hidden things going on there. But FBI with trash cans and stuff. And we lost a lot of contracts, and another political guy here named Larry Langford got a newspaper he told already lie. So on tape. On Being Green and Earl Heath about they put me in this deal with JCCO. Well, it wasn't true. This Spears put me in the deal. The Spears died. She died. Mr. Green stepped up in the position as chairman. And Larry was on the board. Mr. Henry won the building. They had looked on the building for a year. I showed them about 12, 13 buildings. And the buildings, and they finally chose the building. Henry chose the building on the Western Highway. We sold the building to him. Well, Larry put in the paper that the deal stunk and he's going to get the FBI investigated, and they can't investigate. FBI investigation, they came out investigators and put it on the paper. They killed my business, which was Trust Land Company. I had to go on the cover. And I bought a franchise called ERA Brown Guaranteed Realty. I bought Trust Land Company from Earl Heath. I was renting the space from him. But people perceived that I was working for Earl because of Earl's building. So I bought a franchise. I used to be vice president. It was Earl kind of initially. I became vice president, and in '86 I bought it from him. But that hurt the black community more than Larry Lincoln would know. Because that time we had 50 agents. About 30 of them making good money. Providing money for their family, but that killed their productivity and mine too. And threw me in almost bankruptcy. So, on top of that, then the whites came in with all the preachers were selling dope and bush loss, hauling cocaine in his caskets. And Cliff Walker had dope in his swimming pool out there. They arrested him. I mean, all these mills just flying. Cliff Mulbrook, yeah, there was all kinds of rumors flying. Earl, he was a crook, and me and Earl, he was going to jail. I mean, and a guy at a party in Oscar Adams' office, Oscar Adams Jr. office. A guy got in the middle of the party and said that he talked white folk. He said Earl Heath and I will be in jail by February. I don't put fuck, but he had said that he heard white folk was going to jail. It was all the community was going to jail. It was all crooks and all was going down. And that Thanksgiving, I went. George McCoy got sick, and I went to George McCoy at Princeton Hospital in West End. I don't think I told the story before. And I was telling George McCoy said, Willie, I had some problem having my business. He was telling me, yeah, we all have problems. He said, we got to take you to the streets. I said, what you mean? He said, we got to get back to the street more. I said, no. His parents are going down. He said, that's the Don Walker doing is fine. The white people, listen to that. They want to hear this. They want to see some action, see some support. He just sling the paper. Yeah. So they had to see some people out there.
That's when the marches were developed.
Well, this is where we get to that point. So he said, we got to do protests. I said, well, we got to. He knew that we couldn't borrow money. You can't borrow money. You couldn't do anything. You can borrow money. You couldn't do business. I mean, it was on top of us, just everything we're doing, it was scrutinizing everything. So We got petitions. Me and Jordan Cole decided what we're doing, how we're doing, who will get involved. So we set a team up. Me and Jordan Cole ourselves. Jordan Cole and I was the organizer. I was the organizer. We decided to get Colonel Johnson. Guess what I did? We had Mr. Parker, William Parker, and myself. We decided to get William Parker and to help get the church. He was trustee of 16 Baptist Church, so he brought Parker. William Parker he would get the place to have a facility. We'd get Colonel Johnson to get everyone Woods involved. We got Jordan Cole to get Mr. Andrew involved. And who else was it? Somebody else. It was Forbes, somebody else. But I was a leg man. So I ran a bunch of flyers off, calling for a massive protest. I was running flyers off. And I passed the flyers out the Fellowship of Brothers. There was a nucleus of the launching pad. Oh yeah, and Reverend Bowell. Reverend Bowell and Reverend Bowell was on the front line getting organized. We organized them, but I would pull all of them together. We called it a protest march. And we called for it about 2-3 months before it happened. We kept calling for it every month to us in the steam up. And finally, when they indicted him, and the indicted co-conspirator, at that point he saw the need that he could go on the exercise. It was a good idea. So the march started off, and we met down in 16 Baptist. Wait a minute, 16 Baptist Church. We met, which one was church? Reverend Woods Church. And we organized a march. And the march was supposed to include a whole lot of other things. People backed out of it. They wanted to walk out the banks and stuff, which they should have walked out the banks at that point. Hopefully, they wanted to pull kids out of school and stuff. They wanted to do the march, and it came off pretty fast. And I think that was probably, we personally think that was more in getting the government off of Aaron's back than anything else, because at that point, he saw that people behind this was talking, people were not really behind it. It was a very successful march. But the thing about the march was the count. The church was packed with people. And it was 1,000 on the steps. People lined up against the walkways from here all down to the courthouse. They said we had 2,000 visitors we had. It was 6,000 people there. The next week later, they had another march, Michael's March. Had a smaller crowd, they said it was 7,000 there. So I guess we 3/5 of a man. But I want to tell that story. That was one of them. So I'm still involved with the civil rights movement. And I think between the two, the most influenced me was would be my father, Walter S. Houston, and Rosa Kent, and then being Green.
So you've been influenced by some very powerful people.
Yeah, I think so.
Ms. Cates, I want to thank you for taking time out. I know we could go on because you have a lot to say, but we've taken about an hour and a half, and you've done a great job. And I appreciate the time that you spent.
Well, thank you, Don. Like I said, I've never been man you are, but I should try.